take home the gold. He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morsilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm your solo host this week, Theo. Going to bring you a lot of college updates. C4UC on the horizon as well. So lots to talk about. It's now April at the time of this recording, so a new month. Tryout season on the horizon. So I got a few tryouts this month. I know you do probably as well, listening in the audience. So good luck to wherever you're trying out. Try out for teams that maybe you don't even think you have a shot at. It's always good to just put yourself out there and see what happens. So good luck to all the teams who are trying out. I've seen some rosters already come out, so teams already started making their picks. So you got to get out there. Make sure you're hitting up the tryout. So it's now April. So in terms of work, things are a little bit less chaotic. The athletic season is now over. We had our banquet. I think some ultimate programs in colleges, or I should say universities here in Canada or Ontario specifically, get featured as part of a banquet. I know Queens had a couple of award winners in their club's banquet on the men's side, so on the open side. So it's kind of cool to see some ultimate programs get involved. I know at Brock, the ultimate teams take part in the club's portion of the banquet. Same thing with Queens there. So it would be kind of cool to see more teams having their or be featured in like the athletic department's banquets, because it's kind of a cool experience. All the athletic teams get together, drinks are flowing, food is served. It's just a cool experience for the athletes. They get to celebrate some of the major award winners. So it was fun to plan that, a little bit crazy, but good to see on the other side. Baseball season on the horizon, so or actually is already here. So partially my Frisbee watching is now baseball. So go Blue Jays or whatever team you cheer for. So like I said, lots of college updates to get through because there was a couple tournaments that happened the week that was that I didn't record. And then also this week we're going to have a couple members of McGill on. So McGill did really well. They won a tournament. Didn't necessarily help them in the algorithm, which we'll talk about in the results, but they won a tournament. So we want to give them their flowers and give them some love. So McGill Ultimate Team, the men's side. McThrill on Instagram. They'll be here as well. So let's jump into the news, talk college updates right now.
We now have breaking news.
All right. So a tournament that happened the weekend of the 23rd was Northwest Challenge Men's. We talked about the women's one where the UBC women's side won. On the men's side, they were in a pool ranked as the 9th seed. So they were in a pool with Utah and Cal Poly Slow. Cal Poly Slow is a very good team. I expect them to be in semis. Some say maybe a shot at finals as well. So this is a very good team. They were semifinalists last year. So UBC put up a 12-8 score line against them. So some things to be positive about in that score result. And then they go on to beat Utah to go 2-1 in pool play. So a good result from them defeating Utah. Zion Curtin, another team that's going to be fighting for those bids in the Northwest. Speaking of Northwest teams, they go into pre-quarters that same day. It's a night game. You can see it if you have an Ultiworld subscription. If you don't have one, make sure you get one. You can watch all the college coverage and old club games, worlds, a bunch of stuff. So make sure you go and do that. Ultiworld.com. I think you can go ultiworld.com/video for all that. So UBC wins 15-10. They took half 8-6 and seemed just like watching through like very bits of it that they had control. I know at one point it was 12-10, but UBC scoring 3 straight. That's a good sign to win and defeat Western Washington. Once again, another one of those regional rivals. And I think the scoreline that really should excite them and any UBC fans in the audience is a 15-13 loss to Carleton in quarters the next day. Carleton's a good team. Probably a quarterfinals level team at the college champs. So to put up that type of scoreline, don't believe that game was streamed. They're currently 10th in Cody Mills' Frisbee rankings. The algorithm that he ran or that he runs. So, I mean, they're a good squad, like I said. So, a result to be excited about. Obviously, you want the dub, but you kind of take some of these, I don't want to say with a grain of salt because it is towards the end of the season, but you want to take some of the good things from it. So they go on to beat UCLA Smog 14-12 before dropping the 5th place final to California 14-10. And as I talk about the Frisbee rankings, just be aware that some games are going to be thrown out from the official USAU rankings. I don't believe those have been announced yet. I'm just going to do like a quick fact check while we're on the pod. So do a little type-a-roo here. But last year what happened was I believe it was Charlotte's Skyrise got a bid or there was something. Southwest team lost a bid if I remember correctly. So games can get thrown out. So just be aware of that when you're looking at Cody Mills rankings. Just wait for the official rankings because things can change a little bit. But currently UBC is sitting 24th, so a few spots out of a bid. Currently it has the Northwest getting 3. If BYU doesn't play, which they probably won't, then Northwest would actually only have 2 if I'm not mistaken, meaning that Washington would get the bid out of the South Central, giving them 3 because it would be Texas and Colorado. All right, we're going to shift into the Carousel City Classic. So that was a tournament played in New York, upstate, I believe. Ottawa, by Ultiworld's college update, went 3-0. On Score Reporter, it says they went 4-0. But I don't believe games were played on Sunday. So let's just go with they went 3-0, beating Williams 12-10, WUFO, 13-4 over Syracuse Doom. If you listen to the Deep Look episode this week, they talked about trivia time with teams. So if you don't know your college teams, here's your chance to learn a little bit more. They also beat SUNY Binghamton 12-10. According to Ottawa's Instagram story, they were 3-0 on Saturday heading into Sunday. Then, of course, no games then. So that was the Carousel City Classic. Remember last year, Ottawa won. They beat McGill. Desmond Staples from Ottawa and Tynan Peterson were on to talk about that. So speaking of that Montreal outfit here, they played the East Coast Invite. The East Coast Women's Invite had a lot of good teams. North Carolina, Vermont, Tufts, a few others. So a little bit of a different field on the men's side. McGill was the number 1 seed overall, and they took care of business in pool play. They beat SUNY's Stony Brook 13-3. Syracuse Doom shows up again. They lose to another Canadian team in McGill 13-4. They beat Navy Poseidon, which is a D3 team that I believe made quarters. I remember calling some of their games last year, just like Williams. And then Connecticut as well, Yukon Grind, beat them 13-9. So they win all their pool play games, looking pretty strong, and then get a spot into quarters where they run into Dartmouth Pain Train, sick name, the 5th seed in the tournament. They win 13-12. When we have them on to talk about their tournament, it would be interesting to hear how that game went because it's a tighter scoreline than you would like. They beat Cornell, the Buds, 13-4, and then the Fighting Gobies of Case Western Reserve out in Cleveland, Ohio. They beat them 13-6 to take the championship. So congrats to you, McGill, winning. But your reward is actually going down in the rankings. So kind of wild, but they go undefeated, finish the season 11-2 in the regular season. But because of the field they played, they actually lose ranking points. So they actually dropped 10. They actually were holding on to the last bid before this tournament and actually dropped down. So not much you can do. Maybe they're trying to get to these higher level tournaments but aren't getting in. Hopefully that changes next year. But that does affect their bid earning opportunity. And if I'm looking at this correctly, Northeast only got 3 bids. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I'm going to be straight up with you, McGill fans. I might say it to them in the interview. We'll see. But it is tough because you have UMass, very good team, Vermont, and Brown earning those bids. And I don't know if it's going to be tough. They could do it, but it's going to be tough for sure. And all those teams are quarters level teams bordering into semis. UMass made the semis last year. Brown still got Jock Niss and Leo Gordon. So a couple of nice recruits too. So, hey, miracles can happen in New England, and we're hoping that's the case. We're going to stick in New England because we're going to talk about another McGill team, the women's side. They played the Northeast Classic. A lot of teams in this tournament, they were ranked 17. I don't know if it was like full seeding, but they take on Colgate, win 13-3. They play a high school, Amherst Regional High School, 7-1. and they defeat Rensselaer Polytech 13-1. I do not know the team name for that. But the tough game is when they lose to Wesleyan, which is definitely a D3 team. They lose 11-7 in the pre-quarter, which sends them down a little bit here. They end up dropping games to Boston University, a tight one, 8-7, heading into the 13th place semis where they beat RIT. And then I'm not sure if this was a default, but they beat Skidmore to finish 13th. So that's where the McGill women's team ends up. It'd be nice to see, if they participate in the series as well, what that looks like for them. But yeah, some up and good results in pool play. But I think as I look at the schedule, things ratcheting up a little bit, of course, in the bracket. It just was a little bit of a tough sled here for McGill. Haverford Bryn Mawr, which is a pretty good D3 women's team, won the tournament, looks like, over Bates, another D3 school. So there's like a few different, like some lower end D1 and then some D3 teams out there. Unfortunately, a lot of these Canadian schools don't qualify as D3 just because of the size of their schools. So that's something to remember as well. So I'm going to look at the women's rankings as we kind of conclude the year. Northwest currently, based on Coney Mill's algorithm, has 6 bids, which is a heck of a lot. So UBC currently sits on the number 1 ranking in their algorithm. New England, how many bids do you have? Let's take a look. Just 2. So Vermont, they just beat UNC twice. So this is a finals contender, semis at least, but finals for sure. And then you have Tufts, who played UNC, albeit a windy game, had a chance to edit that one. 9-8, they lost to UNC. So those are some pretty good squads that McGill would have to compete against. Northeastern is still hanging out around there as well. So we'll see if they even go to the postseason. And we'll go from there. I assume, McGill men's, you're going because you played these 2 regular season tournaments to get yourself eligible. So that's what's happening there. We're going to have kind of 2 main events. So we're going to talk about with McGill. And then after my interview with McGill, I'll do a mini preview of C4UC. So mini preview of that coming up as well. That's going to be in your title. You would have seen that. Didn't really mention in the intro, but a quick preview of C4UC, both adult and juniors happening in Quebec. So right now we're going to take a quick break and then have McGill come on the podcast.
This is Nick House from Regiment Ultimate in St. John's, Newfoundland. You're listening to the Huckin podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
All right, folks, welcome to the main event. We got 2 McGill Ultimate Team McThrill on Instagram, so make sure you just hit a follow on that right now. Talking about their run at East Coast Invite, so pretty exciting. So Calvin Coulbury, Ruari McEwan in the house. Calvin, this is your second time. Roy, your first time. So this will be good. This will be good. So first off, introduce yourself. So we'll start with Calvin. How long you been playing for MUT? Your role on the team?
So what's up, everybody? My name's Calvin. This is my 6th year on MUT, so 4 years of undergrad, 2nd year of my PhD right now. This is my last year. I'm out of eligibility after this. I'm a captain and I'm a handler, so that's my whole thing.
Okay.
What up, squad? I'm Rory. I'm also a captain on MUT. I've been playing on MUT this is my 3rd year playing on MUT. I missed my freshman year. I'm a 4th year. I missed my freshman year because of COVID stuff. But joined.
And Rory, are you American as well?
I am.
You know how I could tell?
How could you tell?
Because you use the word freshman, and like no Canadian would ever. So Canadian fans out there, they know no one would ever say they were a freshman in college.
Right away.
Yeah. They would say I'm a first year. So it's cool. Yeah, we got. Where are you from? Are you from Texas as well?
No, I'm from New Jersey. I was technically born. I was born in Guatemala, but I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay, sweet. Did you play for Devil then?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
For 1.5 years because of the COVID.
Yeah, Devil is a big program out there. If you don't know already, produce a lot of Ultimate players that end up not playing for Rutgers and they just play elsewhere. So that's usually the theme of that Devil program. But anyways, let's talk about MUT. So talk about how the season has gone for you so far up until the tournament that we're about to talk about today. So Rory, I'll throw it to you first. How has the season been going for McGill?
So far the season has been going really well for us. We started off by going to Queen City Tune-Up. It was kind of it was a really sick time. We got to play against like some really good teams like Darkside, UNCW, and NC State. And it was a great feeler. I felt like for where we were at the start of our season, we had, neither team were really power lining, but we had a close-ish game with Darkside, dubbed over UNCW, and then had another close game against NC State that was unfortunately cut short due to like weather conditions. But then since then, we haven't had another tournament except for East Coast just now. But we've just been practicing running scrims as much as we can. So overall, pretty good.
And Calvin, do you scrim any of the like kind of local club teams, or is it more just like internally with like yourselves?
Yeah, we have some internal scrims. Like we've split into two pods. We have some pod scrims. We also scrimmed against the Royal and SOM, one of the Masters teams, because we all practice at the same time. So same dome, same time, same place. It's pretty convenient. But yeah, I've been really happy with how the season's going so far. I feel like going to Queen City Tune-Up was really big for the program, just because like we got to play some of the really top tier teams in the country. Number one Darkside, obviously that's like a once in a lifetime opportunity to play a team like that in college. And I think it's really important. Especially for our team to do that, just because like we have been on the outside looking in of nationals of that like extremely top tier. And so it kind of demystifies that top end. Like, oh yeah, we can play with these guys. We can hang for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of the tournament itself, Calvin, I'll stick with you for this one. What were the team's goals heading in the tournament? Obviously, coaches out there know there's often like process goals and kind of outcome-based goals. So overall for you as a team, what were your kind of goals heading into this tournament?
Honestly, it's our first time playing outside all season, so just kind of get accustomed to running around, not on turf, outside again. As for like goals, I'm struggling to remember exactly what we said, but I believe it was like, make the best shot we can at Darkside and then try make the bracket, which we did by taking that W over UNCW in pool play.
Yeah, and then so Rory, you head into the East Coast invite. Yeah, you win some games. Okay.
We won a lot of games. Okay.
So what was the messaging after day one? I'm not sure like who kind of delivers that messaging, but what was the messaging after day one with you winning all your games?
Well, we went into this tournament knowing it was a No Flame, a Metro East tournament, where we're going to be playing against a lot of teams that, in theory, we're like supposed to beat. So our goal was just like to like kind of raise the floor of our team, where we had a lot of our players like stepping out that are usually like smaller role players, like trying to like step up and be more into themselves. Winning all 4 games was really nice, but like I said, at the end of the day, it was like we came in there with an idea in mind that we should be winning all 4 games. So like at the end of the day, it was just like we were happy with like how much everyone stepped out of their comfort zones, and then we were like, next day's bracket, so let's like lock in.
And speaking of the bracket there, you play Dartmouth Pain Train out here, quarters in a tight contest. So 13-12, I believe, is a score line. Calvin, what did you see out there from your team in that victory? Obviously, it was tighter than maybe you would have hoped, but 13-12, you still take the dub, but
Oh yeah, very survive in advance once you're in the bracket. I'll say that. But yeah, I think one of the main March Madness, baby. One of the main ideas that we had going into the weekend was that we wanted to focus on us and our goals, our team, our play. We don't care who we're playing against. We don't care who the opponent is, and just to really have our motivation be internal. And I think we succeeded in that for the majority of the weekend. But that Dartmouth game, I think, is one of the games where we failed at that. It became external. We have history with that team. They eliminated us at regionals last year. It can get a little chippy out there. But we let that affect us in a way that it shouldn't. So I feel that game should not have been as close as it was. At the end of the day, Universe Point, we take the W. It's awesome. Feels good. But I think we really let our mental strength slip in that game. And I think it showed us the difference between what a highly focused team and an unfocused team can achieve.
Anything to add there, Rory, from your perspective?
Yeah, I would add in that also like showed us like just a couple small weaknesses. They had like they a majority of their points were scored by one player. Shout out my boy Drew. But it was just like he's just a guy who's very fast, has a very high vert, and they had another guy on their team that was really good at chucking it. So it just kind of exposed to us that it was like just like one of our weaknesses was deep strength. So we were just trying to take advantage of that, like into the season continuing.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't scout us. We're fixing it. Don't scout us.
It's not a weakness.
So some New England teams might be coming for you and scouting. So just don't do what Ottawa did last year and was trash of the Metro East. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Rory, you did a little bit, but not too much. So it's good. So anyways, we're going to move into the next two games. You take some W's and you get the tourney victory. So yeah, we'll talk about the algorithm in a little bit. But Rory, what was the key from your perspective for the success and winning, going undefeated, winning that tournament?
I think it was really just our team acknowledging that we are striving to be a higher level, and like that takes composure, like at the forefront. So coming out of a universe point game, it's easy to be rattled, but then we just took care of business in the next two games. I think it was like 13-6 and 13-5 or something like that. So it was just us like retaining that, knowing that we just went through a big game, and no matter the outcome, we just had to like keep going.
Yeah, pretty impressive too, because often you see like a letdown, right? Because you just come from a universe point. There's a lot of like emotions that come with it. And so for you to come back and take those wins convincingly is great. Was there any strategic decisions? Once again, don't want to overscale you too much here for the opposition in the New England region, but were there any like strategic things you did, Calvin, as a team that maybe helped with the success there in the final two games?
Yeah, I really think that those final two games, especially after that universe point win, spoke to the like mental strength of our team, but also our defensive intensity. Like there were often times in past years where we would just kind of sit back and wait for a team to make mistakes and then capitalize. But this tournament and this year, we're really focusing on just going out and generating turnovers with defensive intensity, with bidding on every under, with just applying pressure at all times. We're not satisfied with allowing our opponent to make mistakes. We want to go out and generate mistakes. But also just on the mental strength side of things, like we are a team that in the past, we've had those letdowns after these tight games. I remember regionals last year, we put up 13 points on Brown in pool play. It's 14 if you check Score Report, or 14. But basically immediately after that, you lose that game that, you put a lot into it. And then we're going into a game against UMass B. We find ourselves down 8-2 at halftime. And we're like, oh my God, what just happened? We clawed that back and we took the universe point win in that one as well. But I think it speaks to the evolving mental strength of this team year in, year out. It's a very tight-knit squad, a lot of the similar faces year to year. I think it speaks to the improvement of that aspect of our game, the fact that we were able to come back after that universe point win against Dartmouth and then just, not to toot our own horns here, but kind of crush competition the rest of the way.
It's okay. You're on the podcast to kind of talk about your team. So, Rory, are there things you've done as a team, be it you bring someone in or you just do something as a team to build mental resilience? Is it something you cultivate in practice? Do you do like something like, some sessions outside of practice? Or what does that look like?
I think it's a couple things. One thing is our rookie class is awesome. They are a bunch of ballers. We have this kid, Kai O'Donnell, my goat, bruh. That kid can move. But like beyond him, it's like every other rookie we had like stepped up to the plate. I believe like had better stats than like the average like vet on the team, like at this tournament. So it's really, I think it's a lot like setting a work ethic example to our rookies and them like responding in turn, like upholding it. Beyond that, I would say like it's just working out in the gym together, running at the track together, like playing on the weekends when we can, like when there's not too much snow, and like when there is too much snow, hitting some bids.
Yeah, I also think that we saw that weakness in ourselves in previous years, and we've had a series of team meetings to just discuss and talk about it and kind of confront it head on. Because if you have a problem, you should just attack it. So I think that's been something that we've been very intentional about. We got a new coach this year, Richard Bartle-Tubbs. He's very into the whole mental side of the game, and he's been helpful with that as well. So it's really something that we identified in ourselves as an issue and wanted to address so that we could, come back and do stuff like we did this past weekend.
And Rory, you described something very interesting, which is like you do a lot of things together. So, and that's a unique thing about college Frisbee that we often talk about on the podcast is like it's a unique time because club, you can play till, however long, but college is only a certain amount of time unless you're like a sixth year like Calvin. But you spend a lot of time together. So if you were to estimate, Rory, how many hours a week, this is an ad lib question for you, how many hours a week are you spending with your MUT teammates, honestly?
I live with one of my teammates for one thing.
So that helps.
Logging hours there, but I would say probably like 2, maybe 2.5 hours, like on average per day, at least with my team, where it's like whether it's like Frisbee related or just like partying or hanging out.
Studying as well.
A lot.
Your teachers, your profs aren't listening, but I do appreciate that.
I would say, around that probably.
Yeah, Calvin, is that similar? Like that's kind of the vibe?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we have our practice once a week. We get a track workout in. We have a pod lift as well. And then we've been adding stuff on Saturdays just to get some reps with the team. So, even just in terms of team activities, we're looking at 10 hours a week. And then on top of that, you got social stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of time. I mean, which is awesome. Like there's a reason I've stuck around for so long. You know what I mean? Like I love this team. I love these people. And it's a community. It's a community for sure.
Yeah. Are you people on Sabinora? I know they got the tattoos going. Like, do you both have like MUT tattoos? Is that something that's in the future or already there?
I've got a MUT tattoo, left thigh. I was really happy to get that this past year. It was kind of symbolic of what MUT has given to me over the years. I mean, McGill is a huge school. And so if you want to find friends, you have to build a community kind of within the larger school. And that was MUT for me. That was from day one. That was family. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not tatted anywhere. If we made natties, I would heavily consider it.
Wait, no. Now you got it. Now it's done, Rory. So this is it, folks. You heard it here first. If McGill,
bro, let's make nationals.
If McGill makes nationals, you heard it here first. If McGill makes nationals, Rory's going to get a MUT tattoo. I'm not going to tell you where, but you're going to get a tattoo. Not on your face, obviously, but you're going to get a tattoo because yeah. So. Hey, that's motivation right there for your teammates when they're listening to this. Hey, we need to get Rory tatted with the MUT logo. So, okay, I want to talk about next steps, but let's talk about algorithm because that was obviously a hot topic with Frisbee rankings coming out. But I said this earlier in my segment. They're not. I believe the official rankings aren't out. Correct.
Correct. So
like the official rankings where games get dropped out. We saw what happened with Skyrise last year and like all that kind of stuff. So. Things could go, haywire. But from what we see right now, you drop points being at East Coast Invite. Calvin, talk to us about what happened there.
Yeah, so basically, from what I understand, I haven't crunched numbers myself, but we've got some very competent comp sci majors on the team that did some algorithm typing. But basically, what happened was the win against Dartmouth, the Universe Point win against Dartmouth lost us 50 ELO points. Beating Case Western got us 30. Or 20, one of the two. So basically we lost
I think
about,
25.
I think it was 25. So we lost about 25 points on the weekend from our own play. But we ended up losing 130 points over the course of the weekend because UNCW and NC State didn't do too hot at Easterns. And so we had played a really close game against NC State, shortened due to rain. We beat UNCW, and so those were like really big for us in terms of our algorithm. But then when they didn't do too well at Easterns, that kind of tanked us a little bit. So we drop out of the top 20. We drop out of bid contention. Only 25 of those points were because of our games. So
Yeah. Calvin, I'll let you go take care of what you need to take care of. So Calvin's going to hop back in like a hot second. Rory, so in terms of that algorithm situation, and you guys have talked about it, is that something that has really like ignited a fire into the team, knowing that there's like only 3 bids potentially, right? We don't know the exact amount, but right now 3, and there's some good teams in the region, as you know. So
yeah,
what has that done for the team?
I would say that the actual like rankings have obviously like affected the team, but I think what's like gotten the most fire under us is that like we have had to the only good tournament, like quote unquote good tournament that we were invited to that we applied to was Queen City. We applied to Florida, we applied to Eastern, we applied to Florida, we went to Queen City over going to EQs because it's like a 16-hour drive. And we applied for Smoky Mountain invite as well. Like going into this tournament, we kind of knew it was rating suicide. Like we were playing against teams where it's like we said with Dartmouth, where even a win against them cost us like 50 points. I'd say the biggest thing is just that we want to like prove ourselves this regionals, that we can like hang with these teams and that we should be like recognized the same way.
Calvin, I know you just jumped right back in, but anything to add in terms of like what the rank, the ratings, the system and how that's kind of ignited the team or the team's perception?
I think everyone knew we were doing this weekend, and that's why we wanted to focus on us. One of our team goals is not talk about the algorithm all weekend. I think we failed at that a few points, but just kind of keep it in the games. I will also add, I don't know if Roy said this, but we were invited to Centex, but tickets were for the play were like $600 a pop per person. It just didn't make sense financially. But yeah, there's something to be said here about how tournament organizers want to prioritize regional diversity at these big tournaments, Florida, Smoky Mountain, Easterns. And it kind of ends up being a self-limiting system. You have a bunch of teams in the Northeast that could potentially be good enough to all earn bids, but because you want to prioritize regional diversity, you're never going to see a nationals with 6 teams from the New England region, which, there's pros and cons to that. Like we do like the idea of regional diversity. I want to play teams from all across the country. You want to see nationals represent nationals, not just New England plus. But it's a little tough, in the moment, being a team that could be at that highest level and just can't get there because of the tournaments we're not going to.
Yeah, where it's like you're already inviting like 4, maybe 5 Northeast teams if it's Brown, UVM, UMass, Tufts, and Northeastern. And it's like we don't need 6.
Yeah, so maybe you can play the Canada card. That's like the next step. But
we tried. Don't worry, we tried. We just did. We didn't tell them that half our team is American. Just we're Canadian. We're Canadian. We're from Canada.
Yeah. Well, Rory outed himself early, so that's too bad for him. But okay, so Rory, in terms of plans, your team is going to conferences. I just assumed that in my recap of East Coast Invite, just because you played the right amount of games to be considered for the algorithm. So I just assumed you were going, and it sounds like you're both nodding your head. So what are kind of the next steps for your team right now?
It's 2 weeks till it is 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks till sectionals. Sectionals is always like our section is really cracked. It's got Brown, UVM, and UMass in it. And it's typically like with some form of pool play, you get to play against 1 or 2 by the end of the weekend. So I think it's a really great heat check for us, where we just had a tournament where we got to play with a lot of confidence because we were knowing that we were against teams that like weren't necessarily national caliber. And then now we get to play against the teams that are like, this is our competition. This is like one of these 3 we have to beat to take this bid, assuming there's 3.
Yeah. Calvin, anything to add with that?
Yeah, I love conferences. It's one of my favorite tournaments all year, just because, like Rory said, you get to take a shot at the top end without being too worried about getting a bid to regionals. Also, Brown, lovely fields, amazing complex. Providence, great spot. But yeah, I think it's going to be just a really awesome time for the team, and especially to be together and just the experience and all that. The other thing we have to consider, just as McGill, is that, and a Canadian team, I from what I understand, I think American semesters last longer, but that tournament is right in the middle of our finals. So we've got kids that are studying, have to be back Monday morning, 9 a.m. for a final and stuff like that. So it's always a challenge to get out there. It took a lot of working to create the buy-in. I think our first sectionals was like 2-3 years ago. Like it was a big step to do that, just because like sectionals is during finals, regionals is after the semesters ended, people are going home. So it took a lot of groundwork to build the buy-in to want to go to these tournaments, but I think the program's really better for it.
Yeah, it's a cool opportunity for sure. So we wish you the best of luck. But I like to do this sometimes with the guests. So I'll put you both on the hot seat where you have to give some shout outs to your teammates. So Rory, you already kind of shouted out Kyle Donald. Anyone else you want to give some love to? Of course, you want to shout out your whole team, but
Yeah, of course.
A couple specific people that you might want to give a shout out, especially for their play over the weekend.
Yeah, play over the weekend. I would shout out. I love my handlers, bro. I love my handler Nathan Wu, Samir, Datani. My bad, I almost forgot. Owen Kalinsky, all the other handlers. I'm not forgetting. It's just like we got hella, but it's just like we have some. My throwing's not my strong suit. I'm more of a catching guy. So those players I think do a really great job at like being like the general on the offense, where like they can have the disc and like calm people down, take their time, find the open look. So shout out all of them.
Yeah, shout out handlers. Calvin, anyone else?
Yeah. We started a few years ago a program where we call up practice roster players from our B team to play with the A team in the spring, just because we have a B team for the fall series. B team doesn't play in the spring, and we want to develop the program internally. And every single one of our practice roster players that's been at these tournaments is like really playing very well, just really balling out, putting pressure on the vets to get better. Just an incredible group of people. I'll shout out some names here. I'm trying to bring up the list so I don't forget anybody.
Yeah, don't forget anyone.
Don't forget anybody. I mean, we got Malcolm Kalinsky. He's Owen Kalinsky's younger brother. Both sons of one of the first MUTs ever was on the first team, Vava Kalinsky. That's also my dog. He follows all our socials. Always.
Well, that's a throwback name, right? That's a throwback name for the
huge throwback.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, Malcolm's been balling out. Nico Bardicki, huge pickup for us this year. Oscar,
First year playing Frisbee
ever, just going crazy. Oscar, another big one. We got Ryan Marshall coming up from the B team. These are all legends. These are all legends to me. I love these guys. So really, really huge pickups for us from that practice roster. Oh, Hugh and Ruben, obviously they played with us in the past, but those guys as well, just goats. Yeah. Awesome crew. Awesome group of individuals.
Yeah, hey, we love the B teams on the podcast. So shout out B teams because they're actually really important. So if you're thinking about playing and you get on a B team for college, just know that there are a lot of teams that feed in and build their A team through that. So encourage you to do that. Thank you both. I'm going to keep both of you on so that we can do a subscriber only. We're going to have them share their favorite ultimate memories kind of for the subscribers only. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to talk about C4UC. I don't think either of you are playing in that. That's a 4-on-4 indoor tournament. There's an adult scene. There's a junior. It's out in Quebec, actually, but
yeah.
We'll do that after the break. But first off, thank you both for coming in. You can say goodbye to the Huckin A audience.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye, Huckin A audience.
Hey, this is G. Lee, coach of the Wheaties Junior Women and Queen City Bees out of Saskatchewan. You are listening to the Huckin A podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
All right, second main event, C4UC. It's a big tournament for those who enjoy the indoor series. Obviously, it's something a little bit different than your normal sevens. Châteauguay, Quebec, hopefully I said that right, is the home of this C4UC tournament. We got juniors, we got adults. So let's talk juniors first. Of course, if you go on the roster page, even if you're signed in, you don't always see the full roster. So can't do as in-depth of a preview, but I can talk about the two pools. So in Pool G, you have Prime Pandas. I think your favorites to win, potentially, based on what we saw last year with them winning. But there's also Quick Orange out of Quebec City, Chain Reaction out of the Durham region in Ontario, and then Team Manitoba bringing a team once again, it looks like. OJ Cup out of Ottawa. I think they look really good in pool play, if I remember correctly. So I believe we're headed towards OJ Cup Prime Pandas rematch. I'm probably not going to do predictions today, but at least on the junior side. Don't know enough about the rosters to adequately do that. You have Storm out of Newfoundland, Quick Noir, Black out of Quebec City. So there's two Quebec City teams. I've always been impressed with the program they're building out there. I remember calling it games of Origine a couple of years ago. So I know they're building a lot of cool stuff in there. And same thing with Canyon, kind of North Vancouver, North Shore, coming down all the way to Quebec to play fours, bringing the juniors, getting that valuable experience. I remember we had McCullough and Danae Jan out here and talked about the experience of being from Vancouver, not necessarily playing fours out there and getting used to it, kind of your first few experiences being at C4UC. It's good for them, good for the young bucks out there to learn a different style of Frisbee. we don't really have Ultimate out in the East. So this is kind of our version with the 4s and the Quebec rules, okay? So that's pretty fun. All right, now going to adult. This is, like I said, it's going to be a mini preview. So it's only going to be a few minutes long. But Pool A, we have Yum, the defending champs, first seed out of Ontario. You know the Dos Santos sisters. Ryan Polas, Luke Amir. There's more on the roster. You can take a look on the roster online. So yeah, they're the returning champs, the favorite. They will have to deal with bad temperament out of Newfoundland. Some regiment people I recognize. Nicholas House, who's been a big builder in that community. If I remember correctly, Nick, I think you were on a podcast a long time ago talking about community building. But if you weren't, then I'm mistaken. But he's been a big builder of Ultimate there. A big reason for their success with Storm, or just like a lot of players I've played, is in part, obviously it's not all him, but in part due to him. Saskatoon Delight, sick name out of Saskatchewan. The big thing I want to highlight in this preview, or mini preview I should say, is the fact that there are just teams from all over. Wait until I tell you Pool B. But looks like some players that may have played Bunny Thugs in the past. I think they may be rebranded. I know they were Bunnies for a tournament out in USAU a few years ago. And then Disc Lock, they're the number 5 seed out of Quebec. They finished 13th, if I'm not mistaken, at Mars Attack. So Mars Attack is a big tournament out there. It's kind of the culmination of their series. It's very competitive in Quebec, by the way. And Disc Lock finished 13th. But there's only a certain amount of teams that want to go. So they are, I'm going to call them the 5th seed out of Quebec, out of the Trois Rivières, Three Rivers. Okay. Now, Pool B, Ninjaks, the number 1 seed out of Quebec. They finished 2nd at the aforementioned tournament. Anushka Bodger's a name you might know. Jean-Lévi Champagne, who definitely was on the podcast. Someone you might know, Carolyn Cadeau. But the big name, Toby de Crane, I hope I'm saying it right. He's Belgium's finest. He was listed on some Ultiworld European awards. He was nasty for Belgium at U24s. If you watch Belgium versus Canada, you know what I'm talking about. Even Belgium versus USA. I believe he's on the Royal as well. So I don't know how they scooped this guy up into Montreal, but pretty cool that they were able to get him. And Ninjaks, I know they got some vets on the team, but you add in some spice with a young buck out there. That could be a recipe for winning. There's only one Quebec team that made it to this tournament last year. So the fact it's in that province, I think incentivizes a little bit for people to come out and play. So it's kind of nice to see that happening. And yeah, Decrane is listed on the Royal roster number 33 in your programs, okay? So look forward to that as well as we get into the UFA, formerly known as the AUDL season. Sugar Mommies, the 3rd seed out of Quebec. They finished 7th at that tournament. And then this is kind of cool. 2 teams. Geographic diversity. Love it. Northern Conspiracy. Not out of Northern Ontario, folks. Out of the Northwest Territories. I will say that again because that is really cool. Northwest Territories. Wow. That you just don't hear that very often. So the fact that we have a team coming all the way from there, I'm not sure if there's subsidies given to them for their travel schedule, but just the fact that they're coming, I'm hoping that most of the team's actually from there. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe they have some like more local pickups, but the fact that they have a team at this tournament is like really exciting for me, as the hope is to grow Ultimate out in all parts of Canada, not just kind of the main parts that you see. So the fact that they're out here playing is really cool. So congrats to you for just showing up. I know there was a team from Thunder Bay at C4UC as well. So it's just really cool to see some of the mix of teams that can come out. Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, where they're listed from, okay? Then we got Little Joe. Okay, I like the name. Some of these names are very fascinating, out of Newfoundland as well. So 2 Newfoundland teams coming. Hey, making the travel. Don't think it's necessarily warmer weather, but making the travel out. Okay, now Pool C, Donnie Parton. Maybe heard of the name Adam O'Donnell. And a lot of Sixers, including Alyssa Mason on this team, some Go players. Nate Hurst out of retirement, at least for the 4 team. That's kind of cool to see the name on the roster. They were the 3rd team out of Ontario. They actually lost to Davy Sitters, which I'll talk about in Pool D at O4UC. Black Pearl, they were the team that came last year from Quebec. They're the 2nd seed out of Quebec. They finished 3rd in that tournament I mentioned before. Tetraphobia took the extra bid, so some teams above them in Ontario declined as other regions didn't fill the bid. So Tetraphobia, welcome to the big dance. You get a spot, and you're third in the pool and a chance to upset and perhaps get into quarters and beyond. Netflix and Chill out of Quebec as well, the 11 seed of that tournament, and they're the 4th out of Quebec for all the teams that wanted to go. Davy Sitter's already mentioned. They're the head of Pool D, 2nd in Ontario. A lot of Ottawa people, Still, Phoenix, you recognize some of the names there. Bubs. This is kind of cool because Bubs and Davy Sitters played. Bubs beat them in pool play 21-12, but then Davy Sitters beat them 2016 in a qualifying game. And then Davy Sitters eventually took 2nd place. Spuds out of PEI, more geographic diversity, love it. And then Frisbee out of Quebec, the 20 seed or 20th placing 6th seed out of Quebec rounds out your teams. So 4 teams, 16 team tournament just makes it a lot easier, honestly. It's kind of nice to just have an even tournament where it's not, you don't have to figure out 19 teams. I think C4UC was uneven. So that's good stuff. All right. So in terms of the format, at the time of this recording, don't have the schedule per se. Got the pools though. But there's going to be some 2-3 crossovers. So you'll want to win your pool to avoid that 2-3 crossover matchup. I do think it's going to be Yum, Ninjax. That's a tough bet. Just bet on the 1 and 2 seeds. But I bet on the Moxie of Yum to win. So I'm going to say Yum over Ninjax in the finals here. Toby DeCrane is going to light it up. But Yum's chemistry is going to win, is my prediction. So that's your C4UC very mini preview here. Stick around for subs only. Going to try to get one of the players from McGill on the pod to do something subs only. Maybe it's a memory. Maybe it's a hot seat. You'll have to find out by heading to subs only. Thank you again for tuning in. Postseason for college is coming up, so that's exciting. And then, of course, some early season tournaments happening. I know at least in Ontario, there's going to be some stuff in Quebec. BC always has some early season tournaments as part of their schedule. So just keep that all in mind as you get yourself ready for an exciting summer season. CUC happening out in Waterloo for Masters. There's Grandmasters as well. There's adult juniors in Ottawa. So lots to get fired up about, of course, Worlds too. So anyways, that's all for me. Join me in the subs only with someone from McGill. If not, I'll see you next week.